this is really a call to action to people in those rail companies. You know, that's what we want. Somehow it's landed on your desk. Yes, it's got that massive PR potential. Yes, it's got some amazing marketing. Yes, we can make this thing fun as well. We just need your backing. We need your funding. We need your support.
Imagine being that first company or organisation to make this happen. That's going to be a big landmark moment, I think, in train travel for disabled people.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Stage 1 podcast. Super special podcast for us today. I've got my good friend Martyn Sibley here. We've been talking for many, many yonks. Hello, Martyn. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, really excited to have a chat today and talk about all things accessibility and tech.
Oh, mate, every single time we talk, we end up going for hours and hours and hours, don't we? Like a proper old couple, just nattering on about all kinds of exciting stuff.
But a lot of stuff to do, a lot of potential.
Oh, mate, it is crazy, yeah. And I think what we're going to try and do is focus each of us on one specific thing today.
Yes, structure.
Structure. This is what we need. We need some structure. And we're going to talk about the issues with accessible travel and some of the ways that some of the technology that we've got could help with that. And frankly, what we're trying to do here is not just raise awareness, but actually get some momentum going behind a project to actually make some changes and make some difference. So what we're doing here is being quite ruthless with showing what can be done and being quite pointed into who we're going to send this to. You know, we want the rail companies to stand up and take notice and realize that what they're doing with their, token efforts at the moment, let's not beat around the bush, aren't good enough. But we've got the solution and the opportunity to make a difference. So that's what we want to do today in this little podcast. Thank you for joining us. So let's start, Martyn, by introducing everyone to yourself and what you do and where you come from.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess the big thing I always mention first is I have a disability, and it's a bit of a balance that, of course, it doesn't define me. You know, I wear other hats, there's other parts of my identity, but particularly in my career and profession and life's mission, really, it's become more and more a bigger part of it. So I've had a disability since I was born. It's genetic. It means that I use a wheelchair to get around literally all the time. I can't, get out of the chair in the day at all. I have a team of carers. And in terms of, day-to-day life, I mean, health-wise, I'm pretty good. Touch wood, it sort of doesn't affect my health. It's just a lot of weakness in my muscles. And as long as I've got my health checked and my independence with the equipment and the people that support me, life's very much there for the taking. And I've been to uni. I've travelled to a lot of countries. My first solo trip was Australia, just because it was a hard one the other side of the world, And obviously, it was a bigger challenge than it would have been for yourself, Craig. There was a lot of logistics and personnel management, taking to support assistants and all that kind of stuff. But really, in the end, once I'd learned to have the confidence to go for life and to manage these inputs that are necessary, the bigger thing that disables me, inverted commas, are the barriers in society. So when you think, particularly for me being a wheelchair user, obviously I have to keep now caveating that when we look at disability, wheelchair users is one part of it. You've got people with a hearing impairment or visual impairment, neurodiverse, etc., etc. But, from my lived experience, having barriers to a building like steps that's going to ruin my day if I'm trying to go somewhere and there's steps. But then when there's ramps and lifts, I'm completely enabled, and I'm not disabled. I'm just Martyn, And the same is with the barriers of attitudes. So when someone sees me cruising down, the streets in my wheelchair, and they think, oh, he's in a chair, life must be hard, maybe he's not cognitively able, that disables me because they've judged me already. Whereas if they just say it's a guy in a chair, but actually he might be into football, he might not, he might like this, he might not, and get to know me as a person, we're back where we should be,
Yep.
And the third barrier is very much around policy. there's obviously government policy around independent living and healthcare, but really when I say policy in this context, it's about businesses and organizations that they should be employing disabled people and having accessible goods and services and having inclusive marketing. And that through me blogging, then running a magazine, then doing a travel business that we sold to Airbnb, all these kind of little projects that underpin it. My big vision is of an inclusive world, and we're just trying to get businesses and organizations to understand that there's a lot of disabled people, yet we're totally underrepresented in lots of parts of society. So let's resolve that, let's solve that, let's take action.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. I love it. And that really strikes personally as a chord with me as well. You know, I can't, I'm a designer. I'm empathetic by nature. I feel like, you know, there's technology is an enabler as well. I love the way that technology can give us all superpowers, regardless of where we're coming from on our backgrounds. And I think that's why this is such a passion project for me, what we're looking at talking about right now. So yeah, super. So yeah, amazing. Really good foundation there. So, all right, let's drill into some details then. What we're talking about today is an opportunity for us to improve the situation for rail travellers. Firstly, rail travellers, but then more broadly, you know, people who need to travel across all of sort of public transport, and how we can make that more available for people with, you know, additional needs. So, let's focusing on just on rail. What are the kind of specific issues that you encounter on a kind of day-to-day basis, and what are the kind of best solutions out there at the moment?
Yeah, I think, I mean, in a way it mirrors those three types of barriers I just laid out of environment, attitude and policy. So the infrastructure, there are now ramps at stations because there are steps onto trains. So that's good, because I like to be acknowledging of progress and of the positives. The difficulty is that the ramps are bloody heavy, and someone has to lift those ramps a lot of the time, all the time, to get them to the train as well. But there's also that sort of training and the attitudinal stuff of someone that wants to have that, I'm here to help, you know, nothing's a problem, let's get the ramp, let's get you on. That's gold dust. But you do get some times where the staff member, you know, maybe they've had a bad day, etc., but you just know the last thing they want to be doing right now is lifting that ramp, and that makes your journey feel a bit crap as well. So there's the attitude and the staff training. But I think the biggest barrier with rail travel, I know, so the first time I did a proper bit of media was on BBC Breakfast about 10 years ago about rail travel, and some of the nightmare journeys I'd shared and the issues that are going on, there are still parts of that exist today. And one of them is on that policy level we talked about, that you are meant to give at least 24 hours notice of when you want to travel and, you know, where you're going to be. And particularly the time is the factor, because they have to arrange that person to get the ramp. The reality is sometimes we go on a train on the day just because we're spontaneous people. But also, even if I do give advance warning, I might be at a meeting, whether it's work or social, you might get delayed. So you might still need to get a later or earlier train anyway. So I think the policy around, requesting the assistance and giving your needs is a bit archaic. But also, and it's similar with other travel methods, but as we say, structure, we're sticking to rail travel today. But I have to give the same information every time. And you sort of think, surely there's a way of them knowing who I am and my needs and my profile. So yeah, a lot of frustration, as you can tell.
God, it's horrible. And you told me a few of the stories that you've experienced already, and there just doesn't seem to be any need for it. You know, we've got the ability, just with a little bit of orchestration, to get rid of those problems and those barriers, and make it more more humane, basically, right? It's like, yeah, you should be able to just decide you want to go somewhere, and life changes, and you just want to be able to, move those times that you need some assistance, and there should be absolutely no reason why that's not possible. It just needs a bit more orchestration. Do you feel that what's out there at the moment is, and this is a very leading question, and I'm putting words in your mouth, and I shouldn't do this, but this is what it feels like to me, and I'm quite strongly, I've got a strong view on this, which I'll flag up right now, but does it feel to you like these are just token efforts?
The what? Sorry, Craig.
Just token efforts. That what we've got. Do you feel what we've got right now are just token efforts?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think one thing that's very important to say for anyone listening that hasn't maybe come into this sort of topic before is that the numbers of people with a disability are huge. We're talking 13 million people in the UK, and as when I look at it, because I'm very into the sort of brand and marketing and influencer bloggy side of life, that there's a load going into sort of vegan influencers at the moment. Apparently there's 100,000 people who are vegan in the UK, and brands are just tripping over themselves to get involved in that. And yet 13 million people still doesn't quite peak or it gets maybe the interest a bit more now than before. But when it then comes down to actually investing in change and taking action, it still is just lower down people's priority. And I'm just dumbfounded, like from the business case perspective, let alone the law, the Equalities Act side of things. It is just crazy that we're still having these conversations in 2020. And I think you're absolutely right. The things that have been done are tokenistic, just to kind of ease the risk of being sued and to do a hat tip to inclusion. But if someone really understood the potential, really understood it, they would be, biting the arm off of the services that are out there, both, from a digital perspective, from an infrastructure, all the rest of it. There'd be brands queuing up to do this, but we're at the education phase, and that's why it's important we're having this conversation now.
So do you think that that's one of the fundamental barriers for providing better quality of services right now is education? Do you think people just aren't aware of what the issues are and how those could be resolved?
So in a way, the solution at the moment to get to the next step of the journey, if you like, is education. I think the reason that it still has not the right kind of engagement is the charity model. So, I mean, I've worked at a massive disability charity for 5 years in London. As a job, I loved it. As a charity, they're brilliant. So I'm not bashing charities. But so when I, for example, in my business now, get asked to go and speak at a sort of inclusive design or accessibility conference, people bulk that I have a fee as a speaker, because I think it comes from that charity background, that it's a charity has done the fundraising, so they deliver the services free of charge. But we're in a world now where social enterprise is massive, and it's quite right that, I'm in a wheelchair, I have a disability, but I still need to earn a living, and I've got a mortgage to pay, and I'm getting married this year and all that kind of stuff. So the education is that it's not, bless them, poor disabled people that struggle. It's, we're citizens, we're voters in the political sense, we're consumers. And once people wake up to that, we're off to the races. But I think it's that's the education, is getting that across.
Yeah, because there's education on what the issues are and what the needs are there. There's also education on, look, there's money to be made here, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, you've got the kind of the humanity of making sure that everyone's got the same equivalent set of rights, and you can just be the human you need to be, right? And that's a thing, and that's great, and that's enshrined in law, and we can talk about that as a separate piece. But there is the financial economic argument here that says that you've got that many million people that you've just said that have got pounds in their pocket, and they're willing to spend them to get the services, right?
It's UK as well, right?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
But if you look globally, there's 1.3 billion people with a disability, and this. I'm not just giving random numbers that I've just made up before we come online. Like, that there's proper research and consultancy gone into this. I think it was EY did the research that found globally it's $8 trillion. So we're talking about a huge, huge opportunity. And I'd also refer to green marketing 10, 20 years ago. It was a bit sort of just for hippies. Now, if a mainstream brand isn't doing something about sustainability, that even the people that aren't the kind of hardcore environmentalists, they don't want to buy that product because they like their brands to have values. So that's where we are, is that in 10 years, if the brand isn't inclusive, there'll be a dinosaur, because particularly Gen Z and Gen Y, they're not going to buy your products, even if they're not disabled.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the economic argument is something that we need to really, really push for here. There is money to be made.
Definitely.
To make, and we're making people's lives better at the same time. You know, we cannot gloss over that. It's such an important.
Yeah, it's a win-win, right? It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an open goal at the moment that is just waiting for us to kind of kick something through. Yeah. So Martyn and I had a good chat about, you know, how we could use some of this technology to illustrate some of these potential solutions, and we built something for Google Home, a voice app for Google Home. So let me go and demo it right now. I'm going to get my microphone nice and close. Hey Google, talk to Rail Assist.
Getting the test version of Rail Assist.
Hi, welcome to Rail Assist, your personal travel assistant. I can help you get where you want to go. So, where are we going?
Reading.
Okay, I can see that you've not been to Reading before. Would you like some tips for traveling to Reading? Or request some travel assistance?
Request travel assistance.
All entrances are step-free. The Eastbourne Terrace entrance has closed. There are lifts from the footbridge to platform 1 and from the concourse to the taxi rank above platform 12. There are accessible toilets on platform 12, accessed with a radar key. Anything else I can help with?
No, thanks.
Thanks for using Rail Assist. Bye for now.
So that's one really simple use case, right? It's an information radiator. So you can ask it, you can say, this is where I'm going. And, you know, one of the things I found when I was looking at this was trying to find a definitive source of information is really hard. All the different rail networks have their own websites and they're all laid out differently. And if you're, you know, and that's just for if you're traveling from a source and to a destination that's in the same network. If you happen to be traveling across country, what a nightmare. So just having one thing that pulls, you know, that can pull all that information together and then just, you know, present it to you in a way that is really super easy to do, I think is great. That's the first step, right?
Yeah, and if I just pick up a couple of things that the information gave, so the fact that there's a lift out of order is back to our environmental barriers, that can be quite a big deal. I've heard horror stories of people that couldn't get over to the other side of the platform to get out of a station because a lift was broken. And the other thing is the radar key that she mentioned. I love the whole sort of he-she thing with technology. Is that's the key that you use for all of the public accessible toilets. So that's great to know that I can use a loo, because sometimes it's not there's not actually a disabled or accessible toilet at the station. So just those two bits, that's going to really help me feel more relaxed and comfortable, or find a bit of a plan B as well if necessary.
Okay, so there's a second example here, second use case I just wanted to demonstrate that we were talking about. So let's give that a go. Hey Google, talk to Rail Assist.
Getting the test version of Rail Assist.
Hi, welcome to Rail Assist, your personal travel assistant. I'll only need to ask these once. First question, do you have an assistance dog?
No.
Okay, and do you use a white cane?
No.
Do you use a ramp to board the train?
Yes.
Do you travel in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Would you like help with your luggage?
Yes.
Do you need to use the lifts?
Yes.
Okay, I've remembered your needs, so I won't have to ask again next time.
So, we were talking there about how you have to fill in this massive form every single
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
And not only can we, so the two things here with that, not only can you do it now with voice, that's the idea here, so you can really quickly do that initial setup, but without having to type a single thing. But more importantly, we're remembering those details, right? So the whole idea with the Rail Assist system is that it will know you and your unique needs that are the same, regardless of where you're traveling or what you're traveling to. So it doesn't have to ask you those things every time. Now that seems like super useful, right?
Very, very, very useful. Yeah, yeah. And I think another thing that struck me is that sometimes when you've engaged with an organization, like, for example, with the rail, network, the rail organization, that there may be some things they are doing that would be helpful. And so I think one point to make is that this isn't coming from a point of attacking any of the providers. It's about just improving things. But if there are things that are going on in a general way that are actually helpful, the other problem is they're just not been communicated, or disabled people don't know about it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really excites me about putting something like this on Google Assistant, for example, as we saw here, is that voice is just one of the ways that you can interact with it. So the thing that we've built, the action as it's called, that we've built for Google Assistant, because I'm using it on a Google Home, which is a voice-only device, you get it, you interact with it with voice. But if I was to do the same thing on my phone or on my home hub at home, which is a different interface altogether, then it morphs the interaction into whatever is most relevant to you. So it might be that you are, you may not be able to articulate yourself well enough. It might be that your need is a speech impairment.
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't work with voice, but that's fine, because the action that we build, that one thing that we build, will work on your type interface here.
Typing as well.
So you can just type to it and to interact with it in exactly the same way. You get exactly the same experience, but it just morphs itself to whatever platform you're using it on. Now, that's interesting in its own right. I think the reason that's really interesting from an accessibility point of view is that those tools, Google Assistant on the phone, for example, has the full suite of Android accessibility and iOS accessibility built into it from scratch. It's not like you're trying to access some random website with a screen reader that's doing its best job to try and interpret what is going on there and give you a way of interacting with it. Because that's always weird, right? That never really works out the way you expect it to. With the best screen reader in the world, the best interaction tool in the world, it never really works as well as you'd love it to. But because this is the new platform that services will be going through, Amazon and Google and Apple have invested so much in making the assistant interaction accessible. And I think that's really going to be really, really powerful as well. So from the get-go, by building this one thing, you get all these different platforms, and it's super accessible from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was going to say, what we found with doing a lot of work on inclusive design is that when you do design, and you know this from your background as well, Craig, but when you design for someone with more specific needs, like a disability, it very often ends up being better for everybody's user experience. So I think that's another important point to make, that this isn't just about special design for a special group. And we have a bit of a thing in, you get like birthday cards for like a special son, and that the word sort of special has just been a little bit tainted over time because of like even special needs just sounds a bit negative.
Yeah.
But what we're on about here is it's inclusive design, it's universal design. And so everybody wins out of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I love design so much. It's just about designing to constraints. So you've got, usually the constraint, the constraints are defined around like, what can you do with the technology that you've got, or how many items can you show on a page that people can remember at one time? It's just, these are just constraints, and it's just this, the mechanism that you use to interact with something is another constraint the system should be designed to support. And that's why I love design, because it is, by nature, it is an inclusive kind of discipline. So yeah, it's brilliant. Anyway, we need to focus. There's one final thing I was going to show you on the skill that we built that I'd like to talk about. And I think this speaks directly to improvements that we could make, or that we could spearhead the industry to make more broadly. So let me show you this thing. This is super exciting. Hey Google, talk to Rail Assist.
Let's get the test version of Rail Assist.
Hi, welcome to Rail Assist, your personal travel assistant. I can help you get where you want to go. So, where are we going?
Paddington.
Okay, I can see that you've not been to Paddington before. Would you like some tips for traveling to Paddington? Or request some travel assistance?
Travel assistance.
Paddington has fast track assistance, so we don't need to book in advance. They'll be ready when your train arrives, even if it's delayed. Tell me your booking reference number now, and we'll confirm your assistance.
123456.
Okay, that's all set up. Anything else I can help with?
No thanks.
Thanks for using Rail Assist. Bye for now.
So that's really, in terms of the level of tech, that's really talking about what we'd love to do, what our vision is for the future, right? So what's happening there is you don't have to book anything in advance. The tech just knows, because maybe you've got the Trainline app or an app on your phone where you are, and it is watching your travel, and it knows where you're going to be going, and it knows if the train's going to be late, and it's correlating all those bits of information, and then telling the station where you need to be at the right moment, and putting what obviously sits behind all this is the infrastructure to deliver that on-demand, just-in-time notification that, okay, you need to be here and you need to provide the assistance at this level, right? And I think, I don't know about what you think on this one, Martyn, but for me, that's the gold standard, right? That's where we need to be, because that's what gives you the flexibility level that really, we need to be getting to.
It's sort of that freedom, and obviously the word independence means a lot to disabled people, and it has different meanings to different people, but just that sense that you can get on and do the design perspective is back to the golden vision as well, isn't it? It's that user experience. It's just simple and effortless. And for when I did the BBC interview 10 years ago, I said Martin Luther King had a dream, however long ago it was, and I've got a dream that I can go about a train journey without any dramas and stresses and difficulties. And I think that's actually the solution there, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So look, we've presented some ideas here. We've talked about what the problems are that need addressing. Right. The next step. That's what we need to figure out. To finish this podcast on. Really, we've talked about this, but in the past, what do we want our message to be? What are we looking to do now?
Well, I think it is about it's collaboration and working with the organisations and the companies that facilitate rail travel. And as I said earlier, for me, it's so important that they don't feel they're being attacked or criticised. I think this can be quite fun in a way. It can be very creative. But overall, I don't think anyone would disagree that everybody should be able to travel as they wish to. And I know my point about sort of comparing it with Martin Luther King might sound a bit out there, but it's civil rights. If you're a person with a disability and you can't go about your day the way you want to, that those barriers are discriminatory, and it is a horrible situation to be in. So I think it's about sitting down and trying to look at how do we implement these answers. When we need to talk with disabled people, like I'm an advocate and I've shared my experiences today, but there'll be other wheelchair users with different thoughts, and there'll be other people that aren't in a wheelchair but have a different disability. So, it's conversations, but it's really about taking action, making steps forward, and aiming for the vision that you quite rightly articulated a minute ago.
Yeah. So for me, this is really a call to action to people in those rail companies.
Yes.
That's what we want. We want you to listen to this podcast. Hopefully it's been shared to you by someone who's caught it on their LinkedIn feed or whatever. Somehow it's landed on your desk. You've had the last 20-30 minutes with the two of us understanding what the issues are. That we're credible. We can deliver something that offers a real quality of life change across the board. Yes, it's got that massive PR potential. Yes, it's got some amazing marketing. Yes, we can make this thing fun as well, right? But it just requires you to talk to us to get the ball rolling. right? You are in a rail company. We're talking directly to you. Come on, press the button, drop us an email, get into contact with Martyn and myself, and let's get this ball rolling, right? Because that's what we need. We've got the capability to do this. We can help understand what the problems are, what the solution could be. We just need your backing. We need your funding. We need your support, and we can make this happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The solutions are ready to go. We're ready to go. And it's, imagine being that first company or organization to make this happen. That's going to be a big landmark moment, I think, in train travel for disabled people.
Right. So are you going to be the company that makes that first step? Are you going to be the one that makes the change? Come and talk to us now, right? Okay, that's it. End of the podcast. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. It's been super exciting talking to you, Martyn. I'm sure this is the beginning of many relationship conversations that we're going to be having over time and building a relationship up as well, which is superb. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you and goodbye.